5 organizations have taken the role in the organization, an important role in the organization of this hybrid conference, last in 2 afternoons. And it's time to let the floor to their representatives to understand why they decided to organize this hybrid session and what are their expectations. First of all, I'd like to introduce you Gilles BLOCH, Chairman of AVIESAN, the Alliance for Life and Health Science. Mr. BLOCH, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you to be in line with us. And my first question is very simple. Why is AVIESAN in some role, what is your role in the value chain of the private academic partnership in terms of innovation?
Clearly, AVIESAN is a coordinating institution covering the large research organization like INSERM, CNRS, etc. And we really tried to develop first basic and translational research and also clinical research, but we also foster the strengthening of relationships with the companies, all kinds of companies, from investors to manufacturers. And we are really an umbrella institution in France, strongly connected also to the companies who are developing solutions for patients.
And what are your specific expectations for the 2 days?
Clearly, we will have nice presentations on the topic of these 2 days, immunology and associated inflammatory diseases. And so it's a window which will open to international partners on the French academic research. And it will be also a B2B opportunity to connect private and public partners.
And a last question, because you are also the CEO of INSERM, our French organization of health and research, medical research. Are immunology and inflammatory disorders among the top-ranking research topics led in academic labs in France, like at INSERM, for example?
Yes, of course. I could give you a rough figure. INSERM covers 260 laboratories, and we could say that broadly 10% of these laboratories are connected to immunology and associated inflammatory disease. So it's a very strong field at INSERM.
Thank you very much, Gilles BLOCH, for your participation in a welcoming word. Now it's time to welcome Marc Bonneville. Marc Bonneville, Chairman of ARIIS, the Health Industry Alliance for Research and Innovation. And you were at the very origin of these conferences, and especially hybrid this year. So why did you want to innovate this year by creating hybrid instead of renewing the usual R&D international meeting like every past year?
Okay, so
I'll take your microphone.
to give you the backdrop, let me introduce in few words ARIIS, so the French Alliance for Healthcare Industry Research and Innovation. So this alliance aims at fostering public-private partnerships between actors of biopharma, in vitro diagnostics, medical device on the one hand, and academic laboratories under the umbrella of AVIESAN, the French Alliance of Biomedical Research Institutions. So to this end, ARIIS aims to facilitate interactions between entities of the French innovation ecosystem and help implement coordinated actions involving these actors. It also aims at strengthening the international attractiveness and visibility of the French healthcare research and innovation. In this regard, ARIIS has previously organized, with its natural partner AVIESAN, several events like the International R&D Dating, with the primary objective of enhancing the visibility of cutting-edge research in France by enabling face-to-face meetings between global R&D leaders from the healthcare industry and high-level academic researchers. Other events with similar objectives have been organized in parallel by our colleagues from LEEM, France Biotech, and BPI, which involved additional key innovation players like Biotech. And so that's why we logically decided to merge these events into a single one, dubbed as a hybrid, gathering all the relevant innovation actors. So this first hybrid edition, we're focusing on inflammatory and autoimmune disease, will be held in a fully digital and remote format due to the sanitary crisis. And while it's always challenging to foster collaboration without face-to-face meetings, we hope that the lively format proposed here, which will include plenary lectures, pitches, and roundtables, will allow us to fulfill this objective. And since there will be close to 15 international delegations connected, this will certainly be a great opportunity to showcase the best assets of French research and innovation in the field of immune and inflammatory diseases.
And by the way, as you're talking about the topics themselves, what is at stake during these 2 days? What main topics do you want to cover?
So we wish to address here several cross-cutting trends and issues on inflammatory and immune disease, and I would like to focus here on 2 of them. The first challenge concerns the increasingly personalized management of disease based on more and more detailed knowledge of their underlying mechanism. The understanding of this mechanism has been greatly accelerated by the exploitation of new functional imaging technologies, but also by high throughput and high content analysis techniques of the characteristics of our genomes and its products, RNA, proteins, metabolites, thanks in particular to the development of next-generation sequencing, cytometry, and mass spectrometry. So these approaches carried out at the cellular and tissue level have not only allowed the identification of new pathways at the origin of inflammatory pathologies, but also has led to the development of new diagnostic, prognostic, and therapeutic tools. So several advances in this field drawn notably from the analysis of our microbiome, from single-cell sequencing and clinical evaluation of innovative treatments will be presented by academic teams, biotechs, and pharmas, and illustrated by the description of some fruitful public-private partnerships conducted with several French centers of excellence. A second major issue concerns the contribution of machine learning and artificial intelligence tools for a better diagnostic and therapeutic stratification of patients through the integration, in particular, of heterogeneous biological and clinical data. Artificial intelligence can also accelerate the development of new drugs from the earliest stage by improving the screening of compounds targeting key etiological players to the later stages, for instance, through the development of digital twins, improvement of clinical trial design, or integration of real-world data for a better assessment of the risk-benefit ratio of an innovation. Some of these trendy aspects will be addressed during the symposium by several experts from the academic and industrial world. Thank you.
Thank you, Marc Bonneville. And among these new partners you invited to join this hybrid conference, we have France Biotech, Olivier Shaban, your general delegate of France Biotech, the Association of French Biotech Companies. So what is your own vision of the issues that are related to this event, and what are your expectations for the 2 days?
Yes, first of all, I would like to apologize for Franck Mouthon, President of France Biotech, right, who is unable to attend the opening session for personal reasons. So for France Biotech, we are very proud and very delighted to be part of this event, of this first edition of hybrid event. This initiative is perfectly in line with our vision here at France Biotech to promote collaboration between all stakeholders in the life science and healthcare. So the diversity of talent within our various companies, the resilience of entrepreneurs, and the multiplicity of world-leading technological approaches, combined with the excellence of academic and university research, are remarkable assets for our country. So the hybrid event is part of the growing desire to facilitate meeting and interaction between healthcare players, academic teams, startups, and large companies to develop new collaborative projects for the benefit of patients. So although we know everybody here that the medical needs remain significant for autoimmune and inflammatory diseases, hence the importance of translational and collaborative research.
And more generally speaking, what is your role in the innovation value chain?
So our trade association, so France Biotech, is dedicated to promoting health tech innovation, as you know, and facilitating the emergence of industrial players. So France benefits from excellence in research and a variety of international renowned scientific teams. As a result, since high-value assets are mainly derived from academic research, they enable the creation of around 60 companies each year. So the French health tech sector currently represents over 2,000 companies, including 750 biotech. The health tech sector is becoming increasingly structured and includes a growing share of medium-sized companies. Today, these companies are developing over 4,000 products and medical innovation, which are very diverse and aim above all to eradicate disease and improve the quality of life of patients. So collaborative research and development agreements with academic and industrial players are key to enhancing the value of this research and bringing a product to patients. So our main goals for the years to come will be to enable the development, the reliability and the value creation of these technologies. Encouraging interactions between innovative and dynamic health tech companies and scientific teams will be key to create and strengthen bridges and to enhance the value and development of the sector. So the hybrid event is a great illustration of this ambition, and once again, we are very proud to be part of that.
Thank you, Olivier Shaban, for these few words. And now, let's let the floor to Paul-François Fournier, your Director of Innovation at BpiFrance, the French investment bank. And as for the others, my question would be, what was it important for you to take part to this event, and what are exactly your expectations?
So it's as a public financing and as a partner of lots of venture, it's very important to understand where we will need to invest in the coming year, where we will need in terms of technology, in terms of area, because the world is changing very fast. And clearly we know that if we want to be successful, we need to understand from the ecosystem, which means from the research center, for the startup, from the large corporate, from the public sectors, we need to understand what are those priorities. And I think this kind of event is very critical for us to see where there is alignment, and clearly then to be able to finance more when there is this alignment. As the Minister Vidal said, I think there is a strong commitment from France in the coming years to increase the financing of the health tech. For example, just to give you a number, last year in 2020, we financed more than 420 million euro for this health tech ecosystem, which is 3 times what we've not done in 2019, and I'm sure it will be even more in the coming year. And for that, again, there needs to be alignment of the overall ecosystem.
And for you, what's the important next step for health tech industries?
I think one of the major challenge for us is to, with all the bodies in the ecosystem, is to accelerate the technology transfer. We know that startups are really critical for the very early, I would say, the very early technology. There is in the new research law in France an ambition to have by 2025 500 startups a year coming from the research center in France. It's almost 3 times what we do, 2 times what we do today, and 50% of those startups are in the health tech ecosystem, in the health tech area. We want to do good startup, of course. We don't want to do 500 startups for startups. We want to create startups that will become large corporate, or that will help the large corporate to of course integrate those technology. And I think the acceleration, the understanding of how to do better in this area is clearly very important. And the second lever is to clearly enhance the venture ecosystem on the biotech sector. If we want to create large company, if we want to create success at the world scale, clearly we need more money on the venture industry. There is more money, but we need even more money. And that's the commitment we are going to take in the coming months and years.
Thank you very much, Paul-François Fournier, for these few words. And now, last introduction, last partner involved in this conference. Frédéric Collet, you are chairman of LEEM. This is the French Union of Pharmaceutical Industries. So I have the same question for the others. I mean, what's your role in the innovation value chain, and especially taking into account the lessons of the COVID crisis?
Look, first I'd like to say that it's great to maintain this event. And actually, probably more than ever, we measure how much supporting innovation is key. And all the patients, we all are, by the way, measure how important it is that we sustain and we support innovation and fast innovation. And actually, this event tends to create all the conditions for good collaboration and fast innovation. I'm there to represent, actually, it's interesting because very often when we talk about the LEEM, we think about the big pharmas. But actually the LEEM is made of almost 300 different companies, from big pharmas indeed, but also small biotechs, big companies, but local ones, international ones. Some are really specialists in manufacturing, some are more in research, some are in clinical research. So actually it's a mixture, a kind of mosaic of very different companies. And I'm there to represent them because actually what we've been living in the COVID is what we learned about in the COVID crisis is how much collaboration is key. And actually, if there is one thing that has worked beyond everything is collaboration. We learned that sometimes collaboration between competitors like big pharmas and biotechs, or big pharmas or pharma companies and academics have worked. And actually all the silos have been broken along the crisis. So actually this is something we should all have in mind as a value for the 2 days we're going to spend together to create the right ecosystem so that this collaboration can come to fruition.
And to focus more on the 2 days and the topics, what are your expectations and about the topics that will be dealt with?
Actually, there are probably two things. The first one is, as stressed by the minister earlier, the French ecosystem is changing in a big way. Actually, it's incredible to see how much has been done under the leadership of Emmanuel Macron over the last months and years, but even more in the last months. And if I look at the health bill, if I look at what we call the Accord Cadre, if I look at what we call the CSIS, the previous one, if I look at the upcoming one, which is very ambitious to make France the most attractive European place in Europe, or European place in terms of innovation and access to innovation, because they go together. I think I'm there first to value, and I hope that we'll be able to value the French ecosystem. And the second thing is also to understand that collaboration is about the way we respect and understand the need of one another. And that's very important. And actually, I come back to the point I was making. Our job is rather easy. We make research, clinical research, manufacturing, and access. And is a coherence of all the chain that is in question. We can't distinct this piece and not this piece. We have to consider it as a global jigsaw. So I hope these 2 days will collaborate, will help us understanding the attractiveness of the French ecosystem and also why it is important to consider it as one global and coherent entity.
Thank you very much, Frédéric Collet. It's exciting, so we're motivated now to launch these 2 days. And thanks to all of you gentlemen for taking part and welcoming our participants on the web.